Hello and welcome to another Truth Proof live stream. Hello, Paul.
Les, you all right? You been busy?
We're doing okay at this end. And what's the week been for you? Where you been getting lots of reports in, Paul?
Full on. And today I've been up at stupid o'clock and just gathering reports. Then I've just had a day kind of away from this, to be honest with you, and it don't do you any harm, does it? From time to time.
No, we need it. Sometimes you can't be 24/7 doing all this research, can you? And still be sane.
Well,
that's the problem.
The saneness is questionable, isn't it? But
So this
is the comforts of madness when we do this. That's what it is, the comforts of madness.
Yeah, we're in our comfort zone when we're on here. So first things first, then we've got to welcome everybody who's coming into the chat, and we'll see there's loads and loads of you, and really great support.
Oh, it's brilliant.
We've got to say thanks for all the support. Yeah.
So we've got Ralph Winter, Welsh Dragon Rising, Martin Abbas, Stargazer, Eternal, Fred Flintstone, Sober Carper. I know Linny's in, and Mrs. Linny. I know Pete will be there in background. I have to say it because he's a great bloke to spend time with, to be honest with you. Magsu, Tony Worrell, Enigma, Keith Ladd, Tony D, Awake, Kim King, Diane Farrell. Looking forward to meeting up later next month, I think, with you and Alison, who's moderating tonight. So that will be great. Robert Hilton, Drew Hollings. Yeah, and there's more. Oh, Sober Carper. And you've got to be sober when you're fishing, mate. You don't want to be falling in. And let's have a look. There's more, but I can't see.
Yeah, there's lots more in it. And I've got to say, if you are new to the channel, and I can see a couple of new names in there, Paul, then please check out all the 300 odd videos that we've got on the Truth Proof channel already. If you've got a spare year to watch, then you can watch all those. That's brilliant.
I've got a few, Les, to be honest, lined up to do this week from some incredible accounts that people have shared with me. I've said I've had a bit of a day off from this, but actually I've had an hour talking to somebody today. I'm not going to go into detail about it today. I've made loads and loads of notes, but I'm going to put it all together, and it's an incredible account. Yes, and they're all out there, and it's a spiral. This guy who's contacted me is hoping that somebody from the 2000s who actually witnessed what he witnessed might be watching something like this, just on off chance, and that's why he's contacted me, because this guy can validate what he's seen, what he's experienced, and. So obviously I'm not going to put it out there until I've squared it with him. I'm going to send it to him, let him have a look at it and see where we go. So that's good.
Yeah, and don't forget Sunday nights, guys, is kind of passed over to you. So if you've got any comments, suggestions for anything, or even questions, that'd be great if you send them through in caps, and so Alison can send them through to me.
Yeah, well, basically, because we are question-based, Les, aren't we, on a Sunday?
That's what it's all. Yeah, chilled out, and any questions will be great. Or any reports, for that matter. And if you've got any in-depth reports, obviously they can email you at Paul Sinclair at ilf@gmail.com.
We got it right. Paul Sinclair ilf@gmail.com, or the website, Don runs,
the website, and
truthproof.uk.
And that's a good lead in there, actually, Paul, because I was just scrolling through the website, and all these reports that you get on there, they're really, really fascinating. And I think I'll put this on screen now.
This is a recent, it's a New Year's Eve report, but it's recent.
Do you want to read it out, Paul? Yeah.
Well, I've been what do you want me to read it all? Been a watcher of yours for a couple of years, and I want to report a sighting that I had on New Year's Eve 2024. Taxi driver in Middlesbrough, driving down Eastern Road with 2 passengers. Lady and older gentleman. The time was about 11:30 to 11:45. I saw 2 flying objects, at first flying directly over the River Tees, and then followed the route of the river all the way out to the sea. That's interesting. When there's kind of an intelligence, it's following a course, but to the sea. When they crossed the bay, I noticed that there were 2 more. That there were more than 2. There was 3. Couldn't make out the exact shape, but they looked circular. They had a red glowing light, which was not flashing, but it was solid. When I got to the traffic lights parked up, take a better look at that point. One of my passengers said, "What's that in the sky?" The lady in the back seat said, I'd also seen them, said in her words, "Not mine." Well, it looks like a UFO. Well, I suppose, I mean, we're never going to know what it was. And I don't want to pour any cold water on this sighting. It could have been the real thing, but we've seen red lights over at sea moving in formation. And when they actually get a bit closer, it turns out to be jets. I'm not saying that's what that is. I thank these people for the sighting, but everybody in chat knows we've got to look for logical first. Interesting one, though. So he dropped the customers off in Easton straight away, opened the flight tracker, see if there's helicopters, planes in the area. Nothing Teesside, north or south. And loves the videos and have one of the books. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, and that last bit there about checking up straight away on flight tracker to see if there is any aircraft in the area at that particular time that he saw it. Adds more weight to the sighting, doesn't it, really?
It does. It adds more credibility. You know, when we're up on cliff tops, I'm lucky, but I don't have flight radar. I've got a phone that's probably good enough, but I'm just useless with phones. I've got to admit it, but I'm happy because there's always somebody that has. That Ian's all that's got it out is be looking to see what's in sky and what isn't in sky. We know that it's military. They could turn transponders off. So, you know, there's the possibility for misidentification. But, I mean, I got a report 2020, which, once again, I'm not going to go into any detail with, but I got the full, I think I talked about it the other week. I got the full transcript from the Coast Guard, and they literally said in transcript that there were no aircraft in vicinity, no reports of anything in distress, no military exercises. So it was a true unknown. And we maybe need to break that down in a lot more detail. But yeah, just give us some questions, please, people, in capital letters. And
yeah, fire them across. Then while I was trolling about today, Paul, as it happens, I found something else which was quite interesting.
Oh, good.
And if I can scroll up to the top title, the top title really says it all for me. I watched a bright red UFO hover above houses before dripping molten lava. Now, how often do you hear that?
Well, yeah, when we hear it quite often, that these spheres of light, because he said a red UFO. I suppose if we look further down, it's going to be circular, or it's just going to be a sphere of light, but dripping the light. It's fascinating. I think we touched on it other week that the Rendlesham object, the military personnel, or some of them, said that this thing was dripping light. I got one from a place near Maybeck in North Yorkshire Moors, where a dog walker actually chased this thing and tried to catch the dripping light. It was that low as it were travelling over ground. And I don't know whether anybody's got any reports of drips and drops of light in your homes. It's not a joke. Seriously. I wrote about that in Night People. All our girls and my wife, we'd all seen it in 1990s. You'd be sat watching TV as a family, and everybody would look, and a drop of light about the size of a teaspoon would just drop from ceiling and hit floor and disappear. And lots of instances of it, not just once or twice. And I think Jess is in chat, and I don't know whether Laura will be, but they've seen it. They're not just saying, "Oh yeah, my dad said he saw a drop of light, so let's agree with him." They'd seen it. I'm not sure. I mean, Bob's in room, and I'm not sure if Bob hadn't seen it in his top flat, because if anybody that don't know, Bob Brown, Beacon of Light, is it Beacon of Light Radio? It's not Out of Nowhere now, isn't it? He's in the top flat, and he's had all sorts of strange things happen. But yeah.
So just to finish on this one, if anybody wants to read that one further, it's in the Daily Star, and you probably have to search for that. And there's a drop the link somewhere in the chat somewhere, yeah. And a lot more to read on that. And it was in Wales, by the way. So if there is any people who know about this, or this person called Helena Worth, who happens to be a UFO enthusiast, anyway, reports welcome, Paul, from around UK, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah, without a doubt. And if, like we've said before, people in chat, you don't have to be some kind of known UFO researcher or cryptid or into ghosts. If you've got something of your own that you want to share with us, you're welcome to come on and share. Because your reports are just as important as anybody else has got to say. Well, I think they are anyway. So let's be having some of your own reports, and even if you don't want to go on camera, we can do it, and Les will blur your face out. And
I'm pretty good at doing that. Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah.
Okay, then Al Durham is on the screen with his question.
Nice to see you there, Al.
Yeah. How about doing a show about the technology used for the stream, a behind-the-scenes type thing?
Well,
yeah,
that'd
probably
be
got a limited audience, Al, but yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, yeah, but that combined with people won't know, but yesterday Les were out and he was on his own. They were out around Flamborough and Danesdyke with a camera on bonnet, getting shots for new documentary, and that things like that would be of interest, I think. Combined with what Al's just suggested.
I mean, the thing is here is that when we shot Wolflands, there was some behind the scenes stuff done, and there was lots of footage in there, Paul. And I was actually watching a lot yesterday or the day before what we didn't use in the final film, so that could be quite interesting to put out there. Format it was originally going to go out on a Blu-ray, but was having some Blu-ray encoding difficulties at the time at the end of last year, and really we ain't had the time since to sort of like get all that out. But there is footage there. There is some behind the scenes stuff, and we are collecting behind the scenes footage now as we go further with this second film.
I think with second one we need to probably get footage every time we're out there, and likewise for what I'm doing with Chris Turner, because he'd said similar to you, we just didn't gather enough of it, and it is interesting, not just for you guys but for us as well, you know, especially all mistakes that I make and saying things 30 times, but there you go.
Part and parcel of putting a show a film together, Paul. Mark Anderson, guys, is there any links to mines and quarries? For example, Carnaple had a mine close by.
Yeah, I probably is, Mark. I mean, it'd be hard to say yes or no, but you do hear reports of these things around quarries. I can think of one in North Yorkshire. I can't think of exact year. 1990s, with a cottage that looked onto a disused quarry. I call it the zigzag UFO. I might have talked about it, I might not. And he's looking out of his window, and there's only like a dirt farm track between his kitchen window, bottom of the garden, and this disused quarry. It's middle of nowhere, North Yorkshire, and over the quarry, very low, there's this object, egg-shaped object, and I think he said it had 3 lights on it, offset, one say to the right and 2 to the left, and when it started to move, it started to turn, and when it flew away, it looked like a zigzagging sky, which is interesting in itself. I know that's not answering your question, Mark, but over quarries, I mean, that question would have been great when we spoke to Chris last week, because he spends a lot of time round there, and he might have been able to give us a bit more information on that. But yeah, and let's have a look then. I see Sarah's in. Hi, Sarah. It's my daughter night tonight.
Yeah. Sober Kappa. Not had like stripping vertically, but have horizontally looking like mini meteors breaking up. That's interesting.
And well, that over land, I wonder, or over sea, and did they sort of disperse and fly away, or did they just disperse and evaporate? You know, it's fascinating. These lights over at sea, broken record again, people, but they appear and then it's just bong, 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 and there's a line of them. Well, you know, when you're seeing them right, but then they disappear again. Suppose it's all open to interpretation. Some people might look at that a little bit different to how I'm looking at it. I don't know.
Ben 22, evening, Paul. Les, Paul, what's your view on the Bob Lazar? Do you believe his stories?
Christ, I don't know. I'd be doing him a massive injustice if I said no, but I really don't know. I don't read very many books, but I did read Travels in Dreamland years ago, and it was a great read. I enjoyed reading it, and that was the Bob Lazar story. And I'm sure everybody in chat knows that Bob Lazar is the guy who allegedly worked at it weren't Area 51, it was another base within Area 51, I think, allegedly reverse engineering. You could go on our go on the Truth Proof live stream, and you can listen to Luigi, Vendatelli. I can't remember his surname. I can't pronounce it correctly, but he's just made the Bob Lazar, the first whistleblower. He's just done the film, I believe. So that might be interesting. Open to interpretation, Ben, because all we're dealing with is anecdotal evidence, mine included. Unfortunately, subtitle at first book, The Truth That Leaves No Proof. Everybody in this chat, you've probably all seen something, unless you're here to totally discredit it and think it's a load of rubbish. You've probably all seen and experienced something in your lives, and you're here looking for answers to your little bit of the puzzle. That's what we're all doing. But what it leaves us with is just a story. Unless you've got some physical marks. So, I don't know, the skeptic will say, well, yeah, he's done them himself. You can't win. But so, yeah, do I believe him? I won't say I do or I don't, because it's a great story, but I don't know.
Right. We've got Mark Jones. What would be Paul and Leslie's favourite film of all time? Have you got one, Paul?
I have, and I'm not into violence, but I did like A History of Violence.
Yeah.
I like, well, it doesn't have to be UFO related. I don't watch many films, to be honest. I liked The Colour Purple. Do you know what I'm just films that stick in my head.
It's funny because I thought you was going to pick a Disney film as well in there, but yeah.
No. I love watching. Hey, me and Pam, granddaughter, we watched Bambi about 2 weeks ago. We sat there, watched it. We sat there. She sat on my knee, and we just watched it, and I enjoyed it, and she did.
Yeah, mesmerised. Mesmerised. I bet you was. Well, for me, actually, it's kind of related to what I'm doing with Paul now in the here and now. It was An American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
So that blew my mind in 1984. I think it came out. Even though it was there was a lot of humour in that film from John Landis, the director, but the effects in it were just absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah. I think I don't know what people in chat. We've all got a different take on it, but I think it's the edginess of things. The not knowing kind of frightening. If you're into frightening films, that's what I like, rather than the full-blown, monster visitation type thing. I like the haunting, the suspense. I find that fascinating. I mean, the film I Am Legend, you might not like it, but that when he's looking into that abyss, when he's looking into that darkness, and the thought, we know it's all fantasy, but the thought of what's out there, if that were real, must be truly terrifying. So yeah. I don't know. And that's the kind of thing that sort of makes your mind tick. But thanks for that question.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the question, Mark. Thanks for the question, Mark. Yeah. Tony Worrell, has Paul come across any sightings from the Royal Observer Corps or any other sightings from World War II?
It's funny you should. I've just been talking to somebody today, and I've just been saying to Les, I've been getting some. Look at all this lot. I've been writing some up, and I have. But yeah, there will be some reports to come to talk about in near future, Tony, and I don't know whether you're interested in the Foo Fighters and things like that, but they particularly interest me because of the resemblance to what we're observing over the Wolds and over the North Sea. I think we're looking at the same thing. But so yeah, there will be some, but we aren't going into any detail tonight. I haven't got enough information to make it really interesting for you guys.
Okay, well, Mark Anderson, back to Rendlesham. Guys, what's your view on the lighthouse at Rendlesham? Did it play a role in the whole account, Paul?
I don't know. It's difficult to. I see what you're saying there, because I've got another story about the lighthouse. As in, one of the researchers who claimed that it were all misidentification, and what these airmen had seen were the lighthouse reflecting back into the forest, imperfect kind of conditions for it to do that. And I find that fascinating that they would say that, because that a researcher would come up with that answer for it, but seeing as those airmen weren't just in that area for 1 year, they were there for years and years and years, yet we never had that effect ever again. And the actual men, boots on the ground, who were there said it was a ridiculous thing to say. And I think they found out that there were a shield on back at lighthouse to stop it reflecting back into forest.
Yeah.
So lots of things. And what's my view on lighthouse as well? I spoke to a retired lighthouse keeper who was a relief lighthouse keeper at Rendlesham, but in actual fact, he was the main lighthouse keeper at Flamborough. And he told me about, this is another story I've done before, but used to get taken to the lighthouse by military personnel, left on the lighthouse and told not to leave the lighthouse until the shift was over. But they didn't this particular day, and these guys were only relief lighthouse men, so they went down and had a walk around and looked down this periscope thing. And before they knew it, military were around them. And, you know, they were being interrogated. They weren't rough with them or anything, but these guys weren't happy. But it kind of backs up, as I've said before, Brenda Butler's story about these periscopes that were placed in certain places. Because, once again, those of you that are not familiar with Brenda Butler, and we need to get Brenda on here, she's the lady that kind of is responsible for breaking a lot of the Rendlesham Forest story. And a lovely woman, and she still lives down there, and she's not been in good health. So if you're listening to this, Brenda, all the best from me, and we'll try and get her on. I spoke to her about a month ago, and yeah, and she'd have some incredible stories to share.
Right, and Ian Lenny, yeah, behind the scenes, plenty of swearing for a behind the scenes video. Yeah.
And this is kind of an in joke with boiled egg. So Pete will be falling about on floor like one of them Cadbury's Smash Men, if anybody's old enough to remember that advert. And the swearing, well, I think bloke who's just dropped question knows all about doing that, because when we're filming things at odd times, obviously you've got to just edit a few words out, because it's surprised people when things have actually appeared. That's all I'll say. But yeah, you're right. Behind the scenes, it would be colourful, mate. Yeah.
That's all I've got on the screen for the moment, Paul.
Well, okay then. So what about time travellers? What do people think about time travellers? Do you think it's possible that these men, women are amongst us? Are they us? From the future or from the past, or are they something else? Because I received a really interesting account from Rudston, the Rudston monolith of all places, from 1994, and I got to speak to a guy earlier in the week. I'm speaking to him again. I want to gather a bit more information. But in 1994, he said he was 29 years old, and he went with his wife on a summer's day to the coast, to Bridlington, I don't know, Filey, wherever he's going, but en route he wanted to visit the Rudston monolith. So, lovely day. Parks up the car. If you're not familiar with Rudston monolith, obviously it's in the village of Rudston. There's a large entrance with two double gates where I should think wedding ceremonies, funerals will enter from, and there's a little side gate, other side at church. And if you parked there and look down the path, you can see the monolith, this standing stone, 28.5 foot. Tallest standing stone in Great Britain. So he pulls his car up against the gate, and his wife says, I don't want to bother going into church yet. I don't want to look. You go in and have a look at it. And she opened the passenger door, and she sat, and she watches her husband walk up the path. But before he goes to the monolith, he has a little walk around the church grounds. I think he went inside as well. Not that there's nothing inside, people, but I just want to note that, because if you ever do go to Rudston Church and walk inside, have a look at the stained glass panel of the devil. It's incredible. It's just, there's a purple devil. It's huge. It's just a brilliant piece of artwork. But anyway, he comes out of the church, and en route to Monolith, he bumps into two people, but they're dressed strange, almost Gothic, if not Viking in appearance. Similar age to him. They speak and say hello and exchange a few pleasantries, and all three of them walk to the monolith. And the lady asks him to touch the monolith, and she said it's warm to touch. And he thought, it's a warm day anyway, and he reached out and touched it. And he said it didn't feel different to him. She says, can you feel the monolith pulsing? Can you feel the stone pulsing? He said, no, can't feel anything. He said, okay. And they talked about a few things, and then he said he looked towards car to his wife. You can see her sat there, And he says, right, I've got to go. He says, and they walked down path with me. But before they left, she threw her arms around him and gave him a hug, which he said it were odd, strange that these strangers dressed differently. And it was such a warm embrace. She threw her arms around him and gave him a hug. And the man held his hand out to shake his hand. So he put his hand forward, and instead of shaking his hand, he clasped it round his forearm. So he did the same. And I think he said something like, travel well, my friend, or something, words to that effect. And the three of them walked out of the churchyard. So these two then walked past the car and went on their way. He gets in the car. She said, what were you playing at? I said, what do you mean, what am I playing at? She says, what? You took ages. What were you doing? And he says, well, I was talking to them two people. He says, what two people? He says, them two that have just passed car. She says, you were on your own. He says, no, I weren't. I was with two people. Apart from seeing you making funny hand gestures, and you were on your own. He says, I weren't. So just, I found it fascinating. It's not what you live for. You live for your family, you live for your kids. But when it comes to the unexplained, I like stories like that. You know what I mean?
And did he say afterwards that they look like solid, real people?
They were real people. He touched them. She hugged him. He shook his hand.
Yeah.
She never saw him. I saw him. The wife said he was on his own. He's still with the same lady. I spoke to him today. I spoke to him in the week. He messaged me today because I thanked him and I said I want some more. I want to ask you a few more questions, and I'm going to talk to him later in the week. And yeah, I don't know what you guys think of that, but I found it fascinating. And once again, the Rudston monolith. This ancient standing stone. You could say if the wife had seen these people, you could say, well, they were just two strange people that like to dress up in medieval clothing or something, couldn't you? But she told him he was on it. Said they passed her and just went those separate ways. So, any thoughts on that? Please just fire it at us. Oh, we've still got the boiled eggs question up.
Oh, yeah, we haven't we? Yeah, let's have a look then. Welsh a Dragon Rising is asking, do you think there was some sort of ancient radio type transmitter or beacon?
It could do. It could be Welsh Dragon. Once again, I don't know. What I do know, and Les will tell you this. I mean, Les will be able to go into this. We took Peter with us. We'll call him our radio expert because he is an expert with communications and radios and any type of sort of radio communications. And they asked him to bench test things, new equipment and all sorts of things. And he took equipment there, and the Rudston monolith, Les, what were it doing? Don't tell me.
Oh, the frequencies. Yeah, the frequencies were way up there into was it 1.6 gigahertz 1.6 range?
Gigahertz.
We've got that on film. We've got all that rising to that. And we've got the 1.6 and was quite a few meters away. And obviously, when we took the readings round with the what did we use?
We used a tri-field meter, Geiger counter. We tried all sorts on it, but I think the main thing of interest was that it was kicking out 1.6 gigahertz.
The 1.6 was the golden number, really, wasn't it?
It was, and I mean, and I'm no expert with this kind of thing, but I do know that when you look at these TV programs. Well, let's cite Skinwalker once again. They talk about the 1.6 gigahertz, and that's like Lazar said. We've got that on film because we'll be incorporated in what we're going to be doing with the next documentary. And guess where else we got the 1.6 gigahertz? Bempton.
Yeah.
No. And another interesting thing, whilst we were at Bempton with the computer gear, a new laptop that Peter took up there. He didn't take it up specially, a new one for that job. He'd actually not had it long. Fully charged, took the radio equipment up with him, what he'd want, omnidirectional radio masts and all sorts of things that we were testing up there. Everything, the battery went from 100% to about, I don't know, if he's on here now, he can tell us, but I'm sure it went to about 26% in a really short space of time. Then we drove to Speeton, didn't we?
Yeah.
And put the computer on again, and it's back up to about 98%. So don't ask me. So is it an ancient type of transmitter or beacon? I don't know, but there's something special about these these sacred places. Let's just say that. And once again, going over old ground, pardon the pun, because we're talking about these ancient monuments, but drop the ruler on the map and take it to Staxton Wold, and you'll see that it's not directly crossing Willie Howe, the burial mound there, but I think it's within, well, sad Paul here, I measured it, it's within 200 meters of it, which is not far when you look at, in the grand scheme of things. Yet we've got these ancient earthworks that are running almost in line with each other. So fascinating.
Yeah, and I'll just put this picture on the.
Oh, there he is. He's lovely. Him stood up, isn't he?
Yeah. So that's us. Well, that's Peter taking the readings.
I didn't mean Pete. I meant me.
Oh, sorry. And yeah. So if I can just find a still of the screen, might be quite good for people.
Yeah.
See if I can find it actually.
You'll be lucky. I didn't know you were going to do this, Les.
Well prepared, I am.
So yeah.
Right, here we go. We've got the magic. We've got the magic one.
Yeah, there she is.
1.6. If you can just see there. Yeah, which is fascinating, because if you can barely see it on the laptop screen, that's the spike, which is there.
Yeah, I'm pointing to it as though the people can see it. It's just above his finger, next to his thumb. There's a little spike there. There shouldn't be nothing there. That, I mean, Pete couldn't understand why it were performing like that. And we had the same at Bempton. We got nothing at Speeton, but we did get it at Bempton. Interestingly, on Clifftop, directly behind the old RAF base, but on the path, on the Clifftop path.
Brilliant. And let's have a look then. So going back to town travel, I think with this one, Rob Hudson, not sure if time travel is a thing or it's just a thinning in the veil of time.
Yeah, I don't. You could be right, Rob. I don't know exactly what you mean. A thinning? Do you mean? I don't know. A thinning in the veil of time. Well, I don't know. It's you'd have to explain what you mean by a thinning in the veil of time. I mean, well,
it might be Paul.
Linear existences playing out almost parallel to ours that have already played out before. I don't know.
That's probably what it means. It's probably like when we talk about there might be a thin veil between us and seeing these strange creatures, on bipedal creatures. Are you with me? And it could be where there's a crossover that you see them, and then it's crossed over and you don't see him again. Well, then again, would that explain why his wife didn't? That wouldn't explain why his wife couldn't see what he saw and what he experienced.
It wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. And he also took a picture, but I haven't got enough information on this one to go into great detail. But he also took a picture of some people walking, and when he looked at the picture, the back of the person, he can see a face. So you could also say, oh, they've maybe got a mask on back to front, but I think he's got the picture. But interesting. And one of the person I spoke to today with the sighting that I'm going to be writing up, he told me that when he'd seen the UFOs, there was some kind of glitch in time. And it's only come about today, this told me. And he didn't realize that until suddenly he realized that what he was looking at, he'd already looked at moments before, the same sequence of events. It's a bit hard to bend your head around. So, but I'll get, like I said, I've got to speak to these people and get more. But everything just twists your mind.
Frequencies again. This was another one we took with the.
This is the microwave detector.
That was practically about 12 inches away from the monument. So interesting. I'm with you, Paul. I mean, Peter's the expert with all these frequencies. We're just the onlookers at the moment.
Oh, we had a doubt,
We'll learn a little bit more ourselves. I'll put this one on the screen then. Martin Abbas is the 1.6 detected at other sites on the ley lines.
Well, that, Martin, will be something that I suppose we'll be testing, with Peter and his equipment. I'm not going to run out doing this because he's got the knowledge, and we'll be driving about with Pete to the locations of what we'll call eye strangeness, to the locations where things happen. I'd like to try it at Willie Howe. Yeah. I'd like to get up onto some of the burial mounds up on North Yorkshire moors and see what they're kicking out. So yeah, we'll know better then. But I know this is detected, or they say it's detected in some of these unexplained phenomena TV programs that are getting kicked out at the moment. Just kicked out the word, put out there.
Yeah, I'm going to put this on from Lee Roscoe. Question: the short film this week on Danes Dyke, you mentioned voices, White Lady. Were there robotic voices, Paul, from the Dyke? Some of the Wit crew had voices on the same side that you were there.
Just heard voices. I've still got more questioning and more information to gather on that. You're talking about the sphere of light that was seen in Danes Dyke, and before seeing it, they heard people talking. They heard voices. Yeah,
good one. And let's have a look there. The Hills might have ours. Are you doing more books, Paul?
I am doing one. I don't know how long it's going to take me, Hills. I really don't. Because of other things that we've got on at the moment. Documentary with Les, one with Chris, and just everything else that's going off. Everybody's lives is busy. But yeah, I'm doing one. I've called it the Sub-Universe because I want to talk about, or I want to write about the potential for what we're looking into, or at least some of it existing beneath the oceans. It's a vastly sort of untapped world, really. And what do they say? 95% of the oceans of the world are uncharted. So the potential really is there that some of this phenomena could reside within the sub-universe, the submerged universe.
I'll put this question up, but I know you just spoke about it. Fred Flintstone, were the people he spoke to wearing modern clothes?
No, they weren't, Fred. They were. He said it was almost Gothic-like, or from his description, I'm getting a picture of Viking-type clothing. Really sort of, I don't know, heavy, ancient, medieval-type clothing, which was odd. I mean, let's just say that they've been to Goth Week in Whitby, and they could be travelling back home, and that's what it could account for. But as Les said earlier, that's not going to explain why his wife couldn't see them, and she could see the monolith. She'd got a full view of it from the side door, looking up the path, and she said
she could see him gesticulating, as it were, with his hands and all that. Yeah.
And not only that, they walked past car. They walked past her, and it's a strange one. It's strange to get.
That's like ghostly tale there, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And following on from that, from a question from Lee, could you not find out what the clothes the strangers were wearing to pin the dating at the monolith? So to pinpoint, I know you just talked about the clothes, and
do you know, Lee? I think the monolith had predate any of that type of clothing. I don't know what people would have been wearing in Neolithic times, but I think this man, Nigel, they called him, by the way, that's his real name. I think Nigel would have known if they were dressed in sort of deer skins and. Do you know what I mean?
Animal skins, wasn't it? Yeah.
Neolithic times.
So the one dressed in animal skins, was there?
No. They were just dressed in. He said Gothic type clothing, so medieval type. Yeah.
Strange one, that one. And that's all I've got in my questions box at the moment. But if you've got anything to put in the questions for us, please do so.
Otherwise, we'll just sit here.
Otherwise, we're just going to be sat around.
No. I tell you, there's another one that I'm going to be writing up in more detail, and it's a lot of these sightings are historic, but I love the fact that people are coming forward with them. Yeah. And this is from 30 years ago, like the early 1990s, and this involved a man working as a contractor for the railway. And I'm not going to go into great detail because I want to do it as a short, but we'll just go around edges of it. He said it was a weekend. It was summertime, and he's working during the night, and it's a bright, clear night, and he's with one other man from his firm and one railway worker who's, you know, was employed by the railway. What's Les's grinning at something? What is it? Anyway, do you want me to do this, Les? Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I'm looking at something from Lee Roscoe, which he put in what you can't say.
Oh, no worries. So there's 3 of them, and they're on the railway. He says, and it's during a lunch break. He said it's a single track line, and there's a bridge about, I think he said about 100 feet away, 100 to 200 feet away, and there's a railway bridge going over the railway footbridge, from what I believe. Having his break. And the 2 men, the man employed by Wilson British Rail and the subcontractor are on a mound. And they're shouting and waving to him to look down the track, or gesturing to him. And he looks and he can see a light coming up the track. I love this story because this guy sat on it for so many years and only ever told his immediate family. And this light's coming up the track, shiny sphere of light. Don't know what it is. All 3 of them are fixed on it now. And it stops above the bridge, and it's not very high in the air above the bridge. And he said, so we've got a rough size. It's about 50 feet because we know the length of the width of the bridge. He says, and it's a perfect sphere, and it's about 50 foot in diameter. And he's looking at this thing. He said, and it's got windows all the way around the middle, and it's just white, shiny white or silvery white with white light projecting from inside the circular windows. Looking at it, everybody's discussing what it could be and what it couldn't be, and it's there for a few minutes, and then it just slowly moves to the right and just carries on over the fields. And the location, let me just have a look. And I've made some. His job in, he were a plant operator. Let me just have a look. The location, I'm sure it said Stratford. But I'll have to go into more detail anyway. But this thing just went over the fields and disappeared into the distance. So this guy, at first his son contacted me.
Yeah.
Well, it bought one at Books, and I usually reply to people and say, you know, your book will be in post tomorrow, kind of thing, and all that. And he told me his dad had a sighting and that we had told him about, and I just asked if he'd speak to me about it. I said I'd love to talk to him. He didn't know if his dad would speak. He said because he'd only ever told his immediate family. So I don't know. About a month ago, we had a conversation, as set up a Zoom link, and we had this conversation. I spoke to this man, Peter, and I spoke to him, and he's told me his account, which I've started to write up, and there's a little bit more information which I found out other day, which I'm going to add to it. Otherwise, I'd have been doing this in more detail. I want to get it right for him, because if you can sit on something for 30 years and you've been sort of fortunate enough to get somebody's trust and have that information, then I want to put it over in best light possible. It's a great sighting. So
and was only the 2 witnesses? Did you say there?
3. There were 3.
3 witnesses. Sorry,
there's another thing to it. Interestingly, he said what you've got is 2, like, we'll call them subcontractors who work for railway, and you've got 1 employed railway operative. So there's 3 of them. I suppose he were there just to make sure that these 2 were performing right. He were a plant operator, heavy vehicles, dumpers, JCBs and what have you. They were clearing some, I assume, debris away from side at line. And so there's 3 of them seeing it. He said he never saw the railway operative employee after that day. There's no conspiracy there. He just never saw him again. He probably moved to another job. And the guy that he was working with never spoke about it. Yet all 3 of them saw it. So presumably, I think Peter, well, he's well in his 70s now. I think, he's still with us, thank God. Presumably, other guy probably is. You never know. I mean, it's a small world. People do reach out. As I said, the report I got earlier today is being done solely in the hope that this man who saw what he did see, the other witness is going to come forward, and chances of them seeing our site, I suppose, are slim. But if you're out there looking for answers, like everybody in chat is, to your little part of the puzzle, there's the chance that it might happen. Are we any more questions here, Liz?
Yeah. We've got a Welsh Dragon Rising. Paul, are you really going to get a Bobster cam to wear?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he's got to have one. He's I'm only biased because I can see your dog there, and I know its name. It's called Loki. It's a beautiful dog, and do you know, we're all biased. I just love him. Yeah, I do. I can't help it. I absolutely.
Well, I hope you're not in danger of getting nudged out the show there, Paul.
Well,
our
looking
little
at
Bobster.
comments, no, but looking at comments, people definitely seem to prefer dog to me, but I'm not bothered. He's funny. He's really funny. You know, when we're talking in house, you know, and I'll talk to Mary, and he's looking at me, and as soon as she starts talking, he looks at her, and he's just a character. But they've all got their own. Everybody in here, there'll be, I bet, 45% of people listening have got a dog or a cat, and to you, they're just as special as mine. It's just, we just love them, don't we? Okay. So he's going to get a cameo.
Third fish question: do you believe in time slips and like ghosts or really living people in a different time slip?
Well, third fish. If this were a time slip, the one that we've just talked about at Rudston, there was some substance to him for this guy to be hugged by the lady and for the man to shake his hand or forearm. So there's some substance there, but I don't know. Like ghosts. I mean, when the flash of gold light or light appeared at Bempton below the cliffs for the anglers, they're bathed in this gold light. They said that they could see the shapes of men, like the shadows of people moving about. What's that? I don't know. And we must remember, people, are you okay for time, Les?
Yeah, I just had somebody calling me. Yeah, Paul. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay. And have you got to go?
I'll just put you on screen for a couple of minutes. I've just got to say.
Well, put Alison on to just fire some questions at us then, if possible.
No, I think I'm okay now. We're okay. Good to go. Yeah.
I know you've got to go at 8.
Oh, yeah, dead on 8, folks. So if you've got... Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Right then. I wonder how many times people have seen things that walk among us.
I don't know. It's a frightening concept. I mean, people that claim to have actually seen people transform. Years ago, I was watching news. I'm not going to say who it was, but there were a pop star who'd been arrested, and they showed you him on the news. And I actually, I'm sure I saw his eyes changed as we're looking at it on live TV. And now I think you can find it on YouTube. And there's people saying, "Oh, it's CGI," but this one on news, as this guy were arrested. I found that fascinating. Do they walk among us? I don't know. There's something walking among us. I mean, if we jump to Pete's story, who's me and Ian know very well, who will be watching this. He saw that man walking down that lane who just kind of vanished, and that's strange, isn't it? I don't know what it is. We could jump back to time slips, this, couldn't it? It's difficult to say.
Right, I've got a question from Silverware. There's been a few sightings of wild men on MOD land. Assuming it's heavily surveillanced, could the MOD be studying them? That's a good question.
I suppose so. Yeah. But on MOD land, so that must be leaked information, because I'm assuming that we wouldn't be privy to getting on MOD land. There's a story from Flixton of military personnel from Staxton Wold walking up through Flixton Woods. There's a cut in there. Les has been up there. There's 2 roads up and around. It's not a massive wood, but walking up in dead of night and coming across or encountering a cryptid type creature. So, I mean, that's close to a village. And so on MOD land, could they be studying them? I don't know. And just what are these things? I was told other week that another big cat had been knocked down up near Filingdales. So if anybody's got any information about that, fire it at me. So... Yeah.
And
I know that's not a wild man, but plenty of wild men. It might be just... Anyway, stop yourself there, Paul.
Okay, let's have a look then. Barbara Davis, can you put podcasts on your website? I cannot find the recent one from Howard Hughes.
Great stuff. I'll see if we can get some links on there, and I'll have a word with Howard and see whether he's got any objection, I can't think that he would have to putting some podcasts onto the website. So yeah, good suggestion there, Barbara, and I'll speak to Don about it.
Yeah, I think we've had some on from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Paul. Whether any came from Howard Hughes' show, I can't remember. But
well,
yeah.
he's not. What I'm saying is, it don't benefit us. It benefits Howard. So if he's happy, and I'll speak to him about it, we'll do that. So yeah.
Okay. And big wave. Paul Thurston. Hi all from Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah. I hope it's warm where you are, Paul. Warmer than Bridlington.
Is that Melbourne, Australia, or Melbourne? There is a Melbourne near York, isn't there?
Well, it could be. Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look then. Jal 1628, welcome to the show, Jal. Do you think Dogman and Sasquatch are evolved animals or something different?
I think there's something different, Jal.
Yeah.
But once again, we're only dealing with my thoughts on it, and everybody's got a different take on it. But I'll give you the analogy of why I think they're different. We've got self-illuminating eyes in a lot of instances in complete darkness. So what animals, without throwing a torchlight on, does that apply to? I don't know of any. We've got the actual movement of these things where people talk about them floating, almost floating like they're on a sliding track. You know, in Howard Dale, and I don't know year, someone tells me it was 2013, the mountain bikers up in Howard Dale, which is in North Yorkshire, which is close to Broxton, close to Silfo, close to all places that we visited in Wolflands, claim that they're going down a track. I think there's 3 of them. And at the side of them, about 30 foot away in the bracken, there's a thing that's just upright. He said it was like a monstrously huge gorilla crossed with a bear. And he says, and we're going down track and it's just following us. Same pace as us, and it's looking at us. He says, we can't see it running. We can't see arm movement. He said, and we've put all like tracks in round there. We know, just live up there. We know all that woodland and that forest really well. He said, and there's ruts, there's logs, there's stones, there's everything in that bracken, as I know to my misfortune after I ended up to my waist in water in one of them. But he said,
well,
this thing
just sounds like I've got that footage handy somewhere, Paul.
You can put it up for me, Les. And yeah,
I'll have to dig it out if I can.
Yeah. You just didn't quite get it, did I? But I held the camera, didn't I? I didn't let go the camera.
Yeah, you saved a £2,000 camera, yeah.
Yeah, but it was horrible, that experience, that, because, well, can you imagine if it had been a bit deeper? If it had been 4 foot deep, it would have covered my head. But so that's part of the reason.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say, Jal, just to add to that, Jal, if you haven't seen the film, you're in a country where you can actually download it. You can get it from Amazon.
Yeah.
So that's great. Or you can order the DVD from truthproof.uk website.
Yeah, the DVDs are there. And like I says, we'd get them sent out right away. I'm just looking at, it's gone now. Oh yeah, Filey is full of cryptids, especially at chucking out time. Oh, that's a bit naughty. I wouldn't have said that, but I had to say that. Yeah, I don't know about that. I can't possibly comment. But yeah, that's quite interesting.
Okay, Tony D, does anyone have any knowledge of the cryptid sirens in the sea?
No, I don't. But somebody in chat might. And I know. I'll tell you what. There was. We jumped to Filey. I think it was 1934. It was just. I'm sure it was 34. Just before big Loch Ness sighting, the one that was kind of made the newspapers at the time, and it predated that, by the way. And there was a Coast Guard from Filey who claimed that he'd seen a huge serpent-type creature with stumpy legs on the beach at Filey, and he claimed it had a horse's head with huge glowing eyes. And there's the reports out there somewhere. I mean, I've looked in archives in Filey, and I've looked in Bridlington, and I've seen the report, but I can't find it in any archive in the immediate area. But it's not something that's made up. It were definitely reported 1934, and then there were one reported at Mouth at Humber in the same year. I'm pretty sure of it, which is interesting in itself, isn't it? You know that we're pretty close. We're only 50 miles away as crow flies. Maybe not even that.
Yeah, and
But I know that's not answered your question, Tony. But I've no knowledge on it, so I'm sorry.
Knowledge on that. No. 6 minutes to go. Less than 6 minutes. 5 minutes to go. And I've no more questions in the chat box here. So I don't know if you've got anything to end the show with, because we couldn't only go the 1 hour today, guys.
Right. Well, yeah, we can only do the 1 hour, but I've just seen that Josh Turner's just come in the stream, and we great. Anybody who's not familiar with Josh Turner, he's one of the best cryptid researchers around, and obviously he's in United States, but he does Paranormal Roundtable. So look that up on YouTube, because it's an absolutely brilliant channel, and Josh puts hours and hours and hours into the channel, and his team of people and his wife Nellie. Absolutely brilliant channel. So I recommend that to anybody, as I do. What do they call the guy? We've had him on before, Among the Missing.
Steve Stockton.
Steve Stockton's another great channel that I'd highly recommend. So some great people out there. So we're going to have Josh on in a few weeks. So great to see you there, Josh, and always good to talk to you. And thanks for giving us support, mate. Really appreciated. And other than that, if you want to buy the Truth Proof books, you can get them via the downloads, Amazon Kindle, or you can visit truthproof.uk to get the paperback versions. And likewise, you can get Wolflands on there. And excellent. All good.
Yeah. And who's Thursday's guest, Paul? Can you remember?
We've got the Kinsellas on, and we're going to be talking about Ronnie Kinsella's book, Terrestrial Trespassers. It come out backwards, that did it? And we're going to be talking about illusions. Sorry, this is Ronald's. That one was Phillips. I get them mixed up, but the twins, so I'm allowed to mix them up. Let's talk. Reminds me of it every time. I don't know one from other, but that's me. So yeah, it will be good. We'll be on tonight at 7:30 Central Time. So that's what Josh has just said. So anybody who's got the time to get over to Paranormal Roundtable, please do, because always has some brilliant accounts, Josh, and he gets some great guests on as well. You know, he's spoken, and a lot of it's cryptid based, I believe. Josh, I wish we'd got more time, because we could have pulled you in for 10 minutes, but Les has to fold up at this at 7 o'clock, because 8 o'clock, because he's got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, and on that note, I think we can close this up.
I think that's it, Paul. And thanks everybody for coming onto the stream. Great support, and I've got to mention monetary support from Lee Roscoe tonight and Madeline Wick. Thanks for that. Great. All else, and we've got some more shorts coming out next week, haven't we, Paul? So
yeah, I've literally been piles of information that I'm typing up. I've got to do it, because it's just, otherwise you're doing a disservice to people who've been good enough to come forward with information, but it's just never ending. But I'm not complaining. Any reports, it don't even have to be UK based.
No.
And if you've got anything in America, cryptid related, UFO related, fire it at Josh Turner, and he'll do a brilliant job on relaying your account or liaising with you, and just putting your mind at rest. Yeah, great people out there.
Yeah. On that note, then, we are going to say good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you all Thursday.
Bye-bye.